With Doubtnut, get instant video solutions to all your maths, physics, chemistry, and biology doubts. Just click the image of the question, crop the question, and get instant video solution. Download Doubtnut app today.
Hello. So the question says ventricular systole and ventricular diastole on the basis of type of heart sound produced. So here we have to differentiate the ventricular systole and the ventricular diastole phases of the heart on the type of heart sound produced. Okay. So first of all, which are the heart sounds that are produced? So we have two types of heart sound. The first heart sound is S1, which is also called as heard as lub. Okay. And the second heart sound is S2. The second heart sound is S2 and it is heard as dub by the stethoscope. Right. Now when do these heart sounds occur? Okay. So when I draw a rough diagram of the heart. So let's draw a rough diagram of the heart. So if this is a rough diagram of the heart, you know that the human heart is made up of 4 chambers. Okay. So I'll draw the 4 chambers. Okay. So this is the 4 chambers which are present in the heart, right? So now from let's name these chambers. So this is the right atrium, this is the left atrium, this is the right ventricle, and this is the left ventricle. Okay, right? Now what will happen is, happening is there are some openings or there are some gatekeepers between the right atrium and the left atrium, the right atrium and the right ventricle, and the gatekeepers present here are called as valves. So the valve between the right atrium and the right ventricle is called the tricuspid valve. So I'll write it as TV, the tricuspid valve. Okay. Similarly, between the left atrium and the left ventricle, we have a valve which is called as the bicuspid valve, also known as the mitral valve. Okay. So I'll write it as the MV. Now what is happening is, this is a gate. Okay. So when blood is moving from the right atrium to the right ventricle, these gates will remain open. But when blood is trying to move from the right ventricle into the right atrium, that is reverse, these gates will close. These gates will close. And whenever these gates close, so what will happen is, the gate is opening first, and when the right ventricle and the left ventricle start to contract, that is the ventricle systole, the contraction of the ventricle occurs, the ventricle systole occurs, the tricuspid valve and the mitral valve close, and whenever they close, the sound that is produced is S1. Okay, it is S1 which is heard as lub. So how is S1 produced? S1 is produced by the closure of the tricuspid valve and the mitral valve. Okay, by the closure of the tricuspid valve and the mitral valve. And when does the closure of tricuspid and mitral valve occurs? It occurs during the ventricular systole. It occurs during the ventricular systole. Okay. So whenever ventricular systole is occurring, the heart sound which is produced by the closure of tricuspid valve and the mitral valve is S1 or lub. Okay. Similarly, now what is happening is, there are some other valves also. Now let's draw these valves. So there is a valve which is pouring blood from the right ventricle into the lungs, and there is a valve which is acting as a gatekeeper. Okay, and it is pouring blood from the left ventricle into the body, right? So what is happening is, blood should move from the right ventricle into the lung. It should move. Can it go reverse? No, it cannot go reverse. So to prevent that reverse flow, we have a valve between the right ventricle and the lungs. Okay. So this valve is called as a semilunar valve. Similarly, we have a semilunar valve between the left ventricle and the body. So we have to prevent reversal of blood flow from the body to the left ventricle. We have to prevent this. So there should be a valve between the left ventricle and the body, right? So when does this valve open? Right, whenever there is a ventricular systole. Okay, whenever there is a ventricular systole, there is closure of the tricuspid valve and the mitral valve, but at the same time there is opening of the semilunar valve. Okay, so in ventricular systole, what is happening is, the opening of the semilunar valve, the opening of the semilunar valve. Now you have to remember that whenever a valve opens, okay, there is no sound, okay, there is no sound whenever a valve opens. There is a sound only when a valve closes. So during ventricular systole, we hear only one sound, and that is S1, okay. There is no sound produced by the opening of semilunar valve. But whenever there is a ventricular diastole, what will happen is, whenever there is a ventricular diastole, so now whenever there is a ventricular diastole, what is happening is my ventricles are relaxing. So when ventricles are relaxing, what happens is blood starts filling the ventricles. So blood should fill the ventricles. So the semilunar valves have to close now. So during ventricular systole, there is closure of semilunar valves. And whenever there is closure of the semilunar valves, there is a sound, and this sound is called as the S2 sound, which is heard as dub. So during ventricular diastole, which sound are we hearing? We are hearing the S2. So when we have to differentiate between ventricular systole and ventricular diastole on the type of heart sound produced, we can say that during ventricular systole, the heart sound that is produced is S1 or lub, which is produced by closure of the tricuspid valve and the mitral valve. Whereas during ventricular diastole, the heart sound which is produced is S2, which is dub, and it is produced by the closure of the semilunar valve. Okay. So this is how we differentiate the ventricular systole and the ventricular diastole on the basis of type of heart sound produced. Okay. So I hope I have answered your doubt. Thank you.
For class 6 to 12, IIT JEE and NEET level. Trusted by more than 5 crore students. Download Doubtnut app today.